Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on AtoZ Food America. I'm glad you can make it this morning. If there's any concerns or technical difficulties, just hop into chat and let me know. Hope that everybody can see my screen okay here. And we'll start with a little bit of housekeeping, then we'll begin the webinar. So first of all, this webinar is being recorded today, so if you lose connection at any point, don't worry, it will be up on our YouTube channel afterwards for you to watch. This resource, AtoZ Food America, is coming September 3rd to your library websites, so keep an eye out for that, and we'll remind you closer to the day when that is going to be posted. Yellowhead Regional Library is one of the first few libraries in Canada to offer this resource, so you can kind of be on the cusp of something new here with this resource. And you'll see as we go through today, this resource is really great. It's ideal for trip planning. If you're a foodie and you're going to be going across the US or visiting any of the states, it'll give you some good ideas about what to try as you're traveling, or it'll give you some great recipe ideas if you love to cook. So with no further ado, we'll get started. So I'm going to start with the front page here. As you can see, we have a lovely banner across the front that features a different state each day. Today's featured state is California, and on the right-hand side here, you'll see a variety of recipes from California. And if you were to click on that, it would take you right to the recipe and you could have a look at that. If we scroll down a little, you can see that you can navigate the website by categories: state, region, ethnic group. There's a historical document section, an ingredients section, and a reference section. I prefer to navigate the website using the site menu, which has the same categories just up here, but you can access the site menu from anywhere on the site in case you get lost looking at all the interesting things that are here. So we'll start with the recipes section. So in the recipes section, you'll see on the left-hand side, again, we have some navigation. These are the same categories as you'll see on this main page. So the recipes are broken down by different kind of types of food, types of meals. We have appetizers, soups, salads, breads, main courses, side dishes, desserts, snacks, and beverages. And if I click on one of these categories, let's go to soups. It'll give you a whole bunch of recipes in alphabetical order. What's cool about this is you can click on the recipe to learn more. So we're going to start with acorn stew. So acorn stew, it has some information here about the origin of this food. It's got lots of interesting information here about whether it's indigenous to the US or something that's been brought in by a particular ethnic group. So lots of cool facts there. Gives you the number of servings for the recipe here. So this makes 2 servings. And then it gives you a very clear idea of the prep and cook time and the total time to make that dish. So that's really helpful. Along the bottom of the recipe here, or the bottom of the description, it gives you an indication about different types of food preferences or allergies or dietary restrictions. So you can see this recipe is gluten-free, dairy-free, kosher, and halal. And if you need to know what any of those things mean, you can click on that little question mark and it'll give you a quick explanation of what that means. Something really great here is the share button. So if I click on this, I can email this recipe to any person, regardless of whether they have an AtoZ Food America subscription or not. It'll send the full text in an email, full recipe. I can also click print here, and that will print the recipe on so it's formatted nicely for a printer page. So that's another great feature. As we scroll down, you can see a list of ingredients, and you can check off those ingredients as you add them or as you purchase them, whatever works for you. And then some very easy to follow step-by-step instructions. So you can, again, click off the steps as you've done them to help you keep track of your recipe. And again, I could navigate to a different type of recipe just by clicking on the left-hand side here. So we're going to look at a different section of the website. We're going to go browse by states. So on this page, I have the opportunity to click on a state on the map or from the list here, and it'll highlight where they are on the US map. So we're going to start with California. This will now take me to a page that has a beautiful overview of California cuisine, a good history of the immigration to that area that's affected the cuisine. Then you'll see for each state it's broken down by kind of ingredients or raw ingredients. We've got fruits and vegetables. It'll talk to you, or it'll show here the different types of fruits and vegetables grown in California, meat and poultry that is common to that area, fish and game. And then the very last section, which is quite interesting, is the ethnic and immigrant eats. So in this section, I'll tell you about the history of immigration to California and the different ways that that immigration has affected the local cuisine. Along the right-hand side here, you'll see all different kinds of recipes that are highlighted for this area that are particular to California. But on the left-hand side here are some really great links. We've got classic dishes, which takes you to a web page with all the classic California dishes that are particular to this region. You could click on them and see the recipe. You can see the state foods. So every state has its own kind of official or unofficial state ingredients or foods. So it's kind of some neat information here. You can click on top agricultural products, so that'll show you what is commonly grown in that area or what kind of farming is done. Lots of information here too. And then the next link is farmers markets. So if you are in the US and you want to see if there's any farmers markets nearby, you could type in your zip code of your hotel, click that, and it'll show you the closest market. It's put Yellowhead's postal code in here, so it's not going to show up anything for us right now, but this is a good thing to try. And you can see here the last updated date, Monday, May 6, 2019. So this website is consistently updated and being added to all the time. Finally, under the food culture section, we have Did You Know? So some more little trivia parts about the different types of food in this area and agricultural products. Coachella Valley is named the date capital of the world. Cool little things like that. This would be nice to read before you take a trip to a particular area. So continuing down this left-hand navigation panel, we have craft or beverages, so craft beers. I'm surprised there's nothing about wines there because that's what I would think about when I see California. Just knowing that that's one of their big products, but kind of cool. You could see their different craft beers here if that's something you're interested in. And then now we have the recipes section. So if we were to click on appetizers, now it's going to just show me appetizers that have something to do with this region. Either they're a state food or they're part of the ethnic group that helped shape the cuisine in this area. So you can have a look here through all the different types of recipes that are particular to California. My favorite, the California roll, aptly named for the state from which it comes. Okay, so the next section we're going to look at is Browse by Region. So this breaks the US into geographic regions. And again, you can click on the map or on this little menu. We're going to go to the South. I feel like they have the most interesting food. Just like with the state breakdown, there's an overview, but this time it covers the whole South and it talks about a lot about the influences in this area. So for the South, some of the influences would be Cajun and Creole cooking, soul food, the Caribbean and the Florida Keys. So interesting information again here about the background of the food here, food in this region. Again, just like with states, I can go to classic dishes. It'll have some simple descriptions and I can click on those recipes if I want to see. Ethnic and geographic influences. So again, it'll show you here what has shaped the cuisine, the original inhabitants or indigenous food to that area, what groups have shaped the cuisine over the years, some nice recipes on this right-hand side that you could click on. And next up is special ingredients, just like with the state area. ingredients that are particularly grown in this area, special occasion food. I won't click on these last two since they're the same as the last one, but interesting little bits of information here to learn about a particular region that you're traveling to. Next up on the site menu is Browse by Ethnic Groups. I think this is one of the most interesting parts of this website, is this ability to browse by ethnic groups. So as we scroll down, you can click through these pictured categories again, or there's the right-hand menu as before. You can see different groups that have either immigrated to the United States or are indigenous to the United States. So let's go ahead and click on Cuban American cuisine. So lots of interesting information here, all about that ethnic group, what types of foods they eat natively in their countries of origin, all the way through to how that cooking style has impacted American cuisine. And it's always so interesting how immigration affects cuisine, because people immigrate to the US and they have to change the way they cook things because they can't always get the same things that they had in their native country. So lots of examples here, lots of interesting information about Cuban American cuisine. Just like before, classic dishes. Here, a new feature is the historical timeline. So this will give you some information about Cuban cooking, probably similar to AtoZ World Food. I wouldn't be surprised if this shares some of that same information. I haven't confirmed that though. A special section on influence on American cuisine. So how it really changed, how Cuban cuisine really changed or affected American cuisine. Special occasion foods, and did you know trivia, just like we saw before in the other section of the website. And lots of different recipes, again, organized by type. All right, so we'll go to what I think is the coolest part of this website, the historical section. I think you guys will think this is pretty cool too. So in the historical section, there's all kinds of, sorry, we lost audio for a minute there, but in the historical section, there's all kinds of interesting food history here, particular to the United States. So this is just fun to browse through and have a look. Along the left-hand side here, canned good labels. So I can look at different labels through the years of different types of food. So canned fruit. This is kind of cool and interesting stuff here. Miscellaneous. Wonder if they have any, oh, nothing. Seafood under miscellaneous. So that's kind of fun to look through. Again, coffee labels, just like the canned good labels. Cookbook. This is the best part, cookbooks. So we have a section here with historic cookbooks that are all published prior to 1925. So they're in the public domain. So they've been either scanned or retyped for people to use. So you can have a look through. So this is a really neat one, Creole Cuisine, published originally in 1885. I can click on this button and it'll bring it up in a new tab for me in PDF format. And I can have a look through here at, it's just taking a little while to load, at all the different recipes that are inside this cookbook. It's so interesting to look at because you can really see how cooking techniques have changed, and even the instructions. I find the instructions are like 3 or 4 sentences long, and referring to techniques that I've never heard of before but would have been obvious in the day. So really interesting stuff here. This is kind of a background. Little recipes here. Such an interesting thing to browse through all these different cookbooks. So that's a part of this website that's really worth exploring. The next section, country store photos. So these are just photos of different stores, country stores through the years, all from around the US. Same with dining photos, pictures of the way people would eat meals together through the years. Fast food ads, these are cool. These are print ads from these different franchises that would have appeared in magazines. Kind of neat to see from the 60s, 70s. They go in order. So some of them, they have more modern ads in some of them. They have the older ones, but neat to see. Another interesting section is food prices. If you're interested in numbers and stuff like that, we've got some graphs here about how the price of barley in this example has stayed consistent or gone down. Interesting to have a look at. Fruit carton labels like before. Magazine ads are really fun. This one I found so interesting. I went and looked through all the Aunt Jemima magazine ads, and it was really interesting to me to see how this started out kind of with very interesting portrayals of Aunt Jemima, and more of a pancake mix, going up to modern day where it's the pancake syrup that we know today, and the way the Aunt Jemima character has changed in her portrayal. I spent a little bit of time looking through this. Just very, very interesting for me. It's a good way to spend an afternoon. This section was really great too. Menus. I found this just fascinating. Air travel menus. So I remember my grandmother talking to me about traveling in the 70s and how the food on the airplane was so great, and she was just appalled by today's food on the airplane. So here you can have a look at Trans World Airlines, for example, their menu. And you can zoom in a little bit. So, oops, let's go back, zoom in. So this sounds a lot better than anything I've ever eaten on an airplane. Chilled juice, veal paupiettes, ravioli, sounds pretty good. So just interesting to see how that's changed over the years. I also really liked the restaurant menus section. That was kind of cool. Different kinds of menus from well-known names from around the US. The prices are very shocking if you go have a look at those. 25 cents to feed 2 people. Amazing. Soda pop ads, just like the print ads before. Supermarket ads, kind of cool. I found the Safeway section pretty interesting because it's a franchise that we have here. So print ads from all the way back from that franchise's history. The timeline section was also really cool. So different types of cooking techniques or different things related to nutrition and food, you can click on it and it'll give you a timeline of what was going on. So this timeline of iconic brands, it'll tell you kind of when these brands came up and what was going on for them during these different eras. Just need to look at. TV commercials, these are fun too. I won't play any of them, but you could play some very early beer commercials. I think they would be a nice trip down memory lane for some of us. Now, this section, vegetable carton labels, just like before, just labels that you would find. Now, this section I really like too. What did they eat? I found the US president section so interesting. I spent a whole bunch of time having a look at what Donald Trump eats on a daily basis, and it's a little bit alarming. But I also found it very interesting to see how food was so political and part of a political strategy. Eating kind of the down-home cooking of the regular people is part of a strategy to appear more like the everyman. So I enjoyed that discussion in these sections as well. So yeah, if you want to know what Donald Trump eats every day, this is a very interesting little section to read. The next 2 sections are going to be similar to what you might be familiar with already on A to Z World Food. So the ingredients section has different ingredients broken down by category. What's really fun about this area is if you have some ingredients kicking around from a previous recipe you made, you could click on something on the ingredient category and find some recipes that you could use for it. So let's say I have some vegetables kicking around from something else I made. And let's say it's an acorn squash I have left over. So here it gives me some background about the acorn squash. Oh, I thought I had recipes, but I'm wrong about that. Just has background about the acorn squash. and you can learn some things about them. So interesting trivia area. The reference section has all different kinds of things here. Similar to A to Z World Foods, so a section about this one's about different beers. So it's got the vocabulary that's related to the different things in this section. So you could learn a lot about the specific terminology in this example for beer or coffee and tea. And then there's a little conversion section here to convert your spoons and cups and things like that. Farmers Market Directory, again, we've seen that already. Food inventions, neat little area. You can read all about the history of baking or aging in barrels. Very cool. Food quotes, if you need anything for your social media, maybe, if you're trying to promote this resource. There's some good stuff about good food quotes here. Glossaries, so about particular techniques, you can look up the word or browse the word, similar to above. Information about harvesting and processing food. So this is just little videos about kind of the historical backgrounds or examples of how different things are harvested and processed. So interesting to watch here and there. Herbs and spices. You can browse through different kinds of herbs, and I'm sure it gives us a background about that herb. Lots of things I've never heard of before, like this one. I don't know how to pronounce it. Achiote seeds. Cool indigenous seed to South America. Sauces, kind of a cool area if you're looking for different information. I was interested in looking at the different green sauces, salsa verde. That's kind of a cool thing. I've eaten this a lot, but never knew what it came from. So interesting information here. This is kind of a good resource as a one-stop shop. Like, you could find a lot of this information on Wikipedia, but here you can find the information, you can find how to make it. It's authoritative. You can cite it if you need to. You can send it to people, and it's going to be written well without any mistakes in the recipes, right? So good resource for that. The last thing I'll show you here is the video dictionary, which is really neat. So you can click on an ingredient, something you don't know how to pronounce,
Pork,
and it'll play how to pronounce that particular food ingredient. So I think that's kind of a cool thing. Same with kitchenware. There's lots of vocabulary when you're cooking that you might not know exactly how to say. So these ones, I think I'm pretty good. Let's see what they do with this one.
rotisserie,
Rotisserie, that's how I would pronounce it too. So yeah, cool little sections here. If you're kind of a foodie, there's lots to work with here, lots of interesting information. It's just a fun website to browse and a great place to direct customers to or patrons to who are very interested in cooking. If you see people in your cookbook section, this might be a great resource to show them because they will be able to look at it from home and enjoy having a look at it. So once again, this resource is coming September 3rd. The link to the resource login page will be on your web pages under e-resources. And please keep your eyes open on YRL's Facebook and Twitter feed for an upcoming social media campaign that you guys will all be able to participate in. So without further ado, do we have any questions in the chat section? I will bring this webinar to a close, but I'll hang around for a couple more minutes in chat if anybody has any questions. So thanks for participating, and look forward to being able to share A to Z Food America with you in the next couple of weeks.